Hey everybody, thanks so much for joining me here on Bay Area Babylon. My name is Lucky, and I'm a reference librarian who loves the Grateful Dead. And ever since I was 16 years old, I've been fascinated with the band's history, their lifestyle, their community, and pretty much the entire Bay Area counterculture movement that they helped create. So doing what I do, I've sunk a lot of time into reading and researching, cross-referencing their stories through books and audiobooks, magazines, interviews, articles, you name it. So through this video series, we're going to visit Bay Area locations that were critical in the evolution of the Dead, told through the story of none other than Jerry Garcia. We'll go inside the location of the original Magoo's Pizza, where the Warlocks played for the first time. We'll stop at Phil Lesh's house on High Street, where Jerry came up with the name The Grateful Dead. And we're also going to track down a bunch of other locations and stories of places like St. Michael's Alley, Ken Kesey's house, Rancho Olampali, the site of the Trips Festival, the Human Bee-In, and so much more. And that's just the start. Every location in Jerry's story that we visit, well, it builds upon the next. So please be sure and hit that like and subscribe button to this channel so you never miss a video. So yeah, I say it's about time we kick the tires and light the fires. And let's you and I take this trip together.
The strange odyssey of Jerry Garcia began on August 1st, 1942, right here in San Francisco, California, when a young child named Jerome entered this world. Now, the baby's father, whose name was Jose, had moved his family from Spain here to the Bay Area back in the early 1920s, and had kicked around making a living playing in different pickup jazz bands around the Bay Area. Now, Jose and his wife, Bobby, they loved music so much, they named their own child after Bobby's favorite Broadway composer, Jerome Kern. But the name Jerome didn't last long for the little boy, eventually being replaced by the name the world would come to simply know him by, Jerry. Jerry's parents struggled financially as the family had been hit hard by the Depression. And after being blackballed by the local music union, his father, Joe Garcia, he bought a small bar to help keep food on the table for his family. But no matter how bad things got, Jerry later recalled that there were always musical instruments around the house and that his parents really wanted to share their passion and love for music with Jerry and his older brother, Clifford. Unfortunately, when Jerry was only 5, tragedy struck when he and his family were up in the Santa Cruz Mountains vacationing, and he and his brother were goofing around while chopping a pile of wood. One swing of the axe changed Jerry's life forever, and he lost his middle digit. And even though the injury would one day become his world-famous trademark, the harrowing incident left a deep impact on Jerry during his developmental years. It was a trying time for the family, and sadly, far from the end of Garcia's problems. In 1947, while fishing on the Trinity River, his father, Joe Garcia, lost his footing and slipped and drowned in the river. And it was reported that young Jerry was actually there on the banks to witness this, but that was never confirmed. But no matter what, either way, losing a parent at such a young age for a child has to be harrowing and excruciating trauma for anyone to lay on a young, fragile mind. But the Garcias were obviously devastated, but they did their best to move on. Jerry's mom took over running the bar while Jerry and his older brother went to live with their grandparents, right here in this house behind me at 87 Harrington Street in San Francisco's Excelsior district. It was right here inside this tiny house that Jerry Garcia and his grandmother would stay up late on Saturday nights listening to the Grand Ole Opry. Jerry Garcia would later say that this is where he developed a fondness for country and bluegrass music, especially the banjo. And while young Jerry missed out on the comforts and security of living under a roof with both his parents, living here with his grandparents really helped foster Jerry's artistic interests. And it was right inside this house where they really began to take shape and evolve. See, Jerry developed bad asthma when he was a little boy and spent long amounts of time in the hospital, followed up by resting in bed. And it was during those times where he developed his interest in drawing, which he loved so much that he actually envisioned doing it for the rest of his life. And even though Jerry wasn't interested in school, he was still able to find inspiration there, specifically from a teacher who he described as a true bohemian. And it was through this same teacher's recognition of something special inside Jerry that would inspire him to start expressing himself through arts. And by the time Jerry hit 15, he'd also taken up an extracurricular activity, specifically marijuana. Later, Jerry would describe his first experience of getting high as, quote, "Marijuana? Me and a friend of mine went up into the San Francisco foothills. We smoked these 2 joints and got high and laughed and roared and went skipping down the streets, just having a hell of a time. It was perfect." And while pot did help Jerry momentarily, he also found solace in good old-fashioned books, preferring science fiction and horror comics. Also, Jack Kerouac's On the Road had a massive impact on Jerry's young, impressionable mind, as it did for many young people of that generation. Focused on finding new outlets for his creativity, a teenage Jerry Garcia turned to the beatnik scene over in San Francisco's North Beach area for his inspiration. Here Jerry was introduced to jazz, poetry readings, and the smoky coffee houses surrounding City Lights bookstore. Jerry also found comfort in the beat scene because it was so separate from mainstream America. The Beats loved America and celebrated both life and pain. Jerry could get down with that. Then in the late 50s, Jerry found his other passion, rock and roll, specifically Little Richard and Chuck Berry. Jerry loved rock and roll so much that he asked his mother to buy him an electric guitar for his 15th birthday. Bobby Garcia was so thrilled to hear that Jerry was so musically inclined that she promptly walked down the street here and bought her son an accordion. And after much pleading, though, Bobby Garcia finally gave in and walked up to that little pawn shop on Mission Street and exchanged the accordion for an electric guitar. That's crazy, right? Just think about it for a second. What if Jerry Garcia had kept his mouth shut and taken up the accordion instead? What a sad world that would have been. But thankfully, he was persistent, and it paid off for all of us. Yeah, Jerry, having lost both his father and a finger at such a young age, that must have been a heavy, heavy load to lay on a young child's mind. I mean, Jerry will always be remembered as this bright, shining light that he was. But behind the mask that he wore was a traumatized young boy who really fought a lot of his demons with a combination of music and mind-altering substances. And behind the mild-mannered, good-natured, humored persona, Jerry hid a lot of pain. But thankfully, Jerry Garcia was no pushover. And like great artists do, he found a way to channel his pain out of his heart and through his fingers and his voice, and created a music that I personally believe is proof that light does prevail over darkness. But as Jerry soon comes to learn, in order for that light to conquer the darkness, it doesn't come easy.